Digestion occurs with the gastrointestinal tract that includes multiple stages and organs. The beginning stage starts with the mouth, involving the lips, teeth, tongue, saliva, and pharynx. The process then moves to the foregut, where the food begins to be broken down and nutrients are extracted. The foregut includes the esophagus, stomach, and small intestine. The final stage occurs in the hindgut, where the harder to digest fibers are broken down through fermentation. This last stage includes the cecum, large colon, small colon, and the rectum. The process of digestion begins at the mouth. The very first stage starts with the lips. As horses are herbivores, they do not use their canines to bite and tear. Instead, their lips must be mobile enough to grasp the various grasses and plants included in their diet. Horses then use their teeth to cut and chew the forage. The incisors grasp and tear at the grass, while the molars are used to grind and break down the plants. This is the first step to breaking down the fibrous plants for easier nutrition extraction later in the gastrointestinal tract. This chewing motion also triggers the release of saliva from the 3 salivary glands found in the tongue. This is important as the alkaline-based saliva helps to move the ingestion through to the stomach. While chewing, the tongue also helps to move the food around the mouth and towards the pharynx, which is a muscular passage connecting the mouth to the esophagus and larynx. The soft palate and epiglottis located in the pharynx help to keep the chewed food or ingestion from entering the trachea. They also stop air from entering the esophagus. The ingestion is then moved to the esophagus. This is the passage connecting the pharynx to the stomach. It is approximately 5 feet in length and relies on waves of muscle contractions called peristaltic contractions to move the food materials along. This is also why the saliva produced in the mouth is important, as it helps move food during the peristaltic muscle contractions. These muscle contractions, along with the change in direction that occurs around the larynx and esophagus, are what prevent food from moving back up and resulting in bile. This is not the only system preventing the regurgitation of food, as the cardiac sphincter located at the opening of the stomach also keeps ingestion from returning. The stomach is where the chewed food is held and mixed. This is where the enzymatic digestive process begins. It is fairly small when compared to the overall size of the horse and can only hold a capacity of 2 to 4 gallons. The stomach, a small muscular J-shaped sac, is separated into the lower and upper stomach. The upper stomach is neutral with a pH level of 6 to 7, where the lower stomach is acidic with a pH level of 2 to 3.5. The lower stomach constantly secretes hydrochloric acid, which dissolves mineral material to prepare nutrients for absorption. The pepsin and protease begin the process of breaking down protein to amino acids, while the lipase breaks down fats. The food then moves on to the small intestine, measuring approximately 60 to 70 feet long with a diameter of about 2 inches. It holds a capacity of 17 gallons. Digestion takes anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours for the villi in the mucosal lining to absorb the nutrients. The small intestine is coiled, looped, and double-backed to fit in the compact space. It is supported by the mesentery, a strong, flexible double fold of peritoneum. The small intestine is split into 3 sections. First is the duodenum, which is only about 3 feet in length. It has the job of neutralizing the acidic pH from the stomach before entering the rest of the intestine. This is done with help from accessory organs like the pancreas and liver. The pancreas secretes digestive enzymes that target specific nutrients, and bile is secreted by the liver to help digest fats. The second section is the jejunum. Measuring approximately 54 feet long, this is where a majority of nutrients are absorbed, including fats, proteins, and soluble carbohydrates like starch and sugar. The last section is the ileum. It measures approximately 6 feet long and is the passage from the small intestine through the ileocecal valve into the cecum. After the small intestine is the large intestine. It has a capacity of 125 quarts and measures approximately 50 feet in length. It is made up of the cecum, large and small colon, and the rectum. This is where microbial fermentation occurs, which is the breakdown of the non-soluble nutrients. The cecum is approximately 4 feet long, holds 8 gallons, and is comma-shaped. It is often referred to as the water gut, as the contents are predominantly liquid. Located in the cecum are symbiotic microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, and protozoa. They synthesize B vitamins and amino acids and break down non-soluble carbohydrates into volatile fatty acids, which are then used as energy and heat. Further bacterial fermentation occurs in the large colon. It measures approximately 12 feet long, 8 to 10 inches wide, and holds 20 gallons. This is where the absorption of moisture from the feed occurs. More water is then reabsorbed in the small colon. The small colon is 10 to 12 feet long, 3 to 4 inches wide, and holds 4 gallons. The contents are mainly composed of indigestible or undigested feed, which is then turned into feces. It contains a sac-like structure that forms the materials into fecal balls. Lastly is the rectum. It is a short, straight tube that is 1 foot long and holds the fecal balls until they are passed through the anal opening. Improper feeding, whether it is scheduling, habit, overfeeding, underfeeding, or general health issues, can result in several problems. One issue is choke. Choke is where there is a blockage in the esophagus, otherwise called an esophageal obstruction. It does not affect the horse's ability to breathe, as it does not block the trachea. Further breathing issues are prevented by the epiglottis and soft palate. The epiglottis is a flap of cartilage at the base of the tongue which covers the opening of the windpipe when swallowing occurs. The soft palate is a muscle mucosal sheet that separates the pharynx into 2 compartments, the oral and nasal compartments. As stated before, horses are unable to throw up. The resulting solution being the obstruction must be flushed down into the stomach through other means. Another issue that could result from improper feeding is ulcers, more specifically gastric or colonic ulcers. Gastric ulcers are caused by a lack of substance in the stomach, resulting in the acid in the lower stomach coming into contact with either the wall of the upper stomach or eating away at the protective layer of the lower stomach. This then results in a loss of appetite, attitude change, weight loss, colic, and various other symptoms. Colonic ulcers are located in the large intestine. As they are fairly new to the medical equine community, not much is known about the causes. It could possibly be a result from poor diet, poor feeding, or a pH imbalance. The symptoms are colic, loss of appetite, lethargy, fever, dehydration, as well as various others. It is important to keep horses on a scheduled feeding of the proper amount. This lessens the chances of preventative issues like choke and ulcers, as well as twists.
Ba, hababa, hababadagada, hababadadaba, hatabatagadaga, hatada, hababa, hababadagadaga, ba, bababa, babababa, babababa, ba, habababa, habababa.